Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer. Wanted to give you a bit of a wrap up on the Mega Battle that I had done yesterday. That was March 19th at the Beer Dragon in Bernardsville, New Jersey. So this actually turned out really well. But just as a preface to this, I had done a video a couple days back, maybe about 4 or 5 days ago, where I had finally finished converting. Well, not really finished. It's never really done, and I still have stuff that's on the shelf that I didn't really want to include because I knew I would never get to it, never get to complete it. But there was a whole bunch of conversions that I've been doing over the past several years for a themed army for the undead, and I just decided I needed to really buckle down. And I finally got finished converting a bunch of stuff, most of it, and was starting to paint it. And I had this daunting task of getting it ready for this massive mega battle where pretty much the entirety of my undead army would be in play, either on the table or in boxes ready to be summoned, and have basically make it towards against all comers. And this is the first of several that I'm going to be running. I have a bunch of these planned out. I have one that I'm already working on doing with. I'm talking with Colt from the Brooklyn Strategist in Brooklyn, New York. And he's already painting up his Arcan and is getting his Chaos Army together as an opposing force. But in this case, this was like all comers bring a variety of models. And depending on how many people would show, we would have a list of maybe 50 to 100 or more wounds, depending on how big or small. And we'd battle it out. And there was a scenario involved. And I'm going to go over the scenario and tell you a bit about it. But if you've seen the video a couple days back, you probably saw that I had about 4 or 5, box trays, these like, the water flavored bottles that, after they've been used, I kept them. And I use them a lot for holding various groups of things I'm working on, various conversions. And I stack them up in the closet or on tables and down in the basement and all over the place. I've got a whole bunch of them. So there's so many things from different armies and different stages. But I put them all together of what I had still to work on, not stuff that I had completed that was still in my cases, but what I was looking to work on. And I started priming stuff and basing them and basing in terms of putting sand or other material, the pumice, the great pumice stuff, and then really was lining them up for painting. I put them on these cardboard, flats, tacked them on, and really was starting to work on them. Did a lot of airbrushing, and it was a daunting task. And I will say that I probably got about 75 to 80% of what I had planned done in about 3 days, which was ludicrous. Not to full completion, just to reasonable tabletop identification level. But there was a lot that I missed. You're going to see there's stuff that I wasn't able to get to, and it was an insurmountable task. I could have had 2 or 3 or 4 people helping me. I never would have completed it. It was just a way to buckle down and make sure that I just lit the fire under my butt and just said, I got to get this stuff done. And to be brutally honest, I thought that I had a couple more weeks. I had gotten the date wrong. So I didn't realize I had less than a week to go when I really put it all down. And then I looked at the calendar and was like, oh my God, I've got this massive mega battle on Saturday. I better get my ass working. And I figured I'd put up a video just to show the lunacy of it. In any case, I did a lot more than I expected. And that's just goes to show that if you really put it, you put yourself to a task and even put yourself under the gun, sometimes it could be a good motivator. So long story short, we had this mega battle. I'm going to describe some of the, this is a nice panorama that one of the guys took. Doesn't show you the full spread of the table, but it gives you a good idea of the table. We were originally going to have about 8 tables, so 4 boards, but we reduced them back to 6 tables and 3 game boards because some of the people couldn't show because they were involved in a 40K ongoing campaign. Which is too bad. There's one guy that was supposed to show, but I think he was he's getting married and he was picking out stuff or going to look at stuff with his wife. I mean, look, life gets in the way. That's more important than playing with plastic toys. But we had 4 players against Nagash, so 4 armies against Nagash, and I'll outline some of them later. But some people had brought. I allowed for some people to recycle some units. And some people had brought more stuff. Like the Lizardman army was by far the biggest in terms of wound count that was arrayed against Nagash. I think a very close second was the Ogres. But let me go through this. But this is a nice array. We had nice bits of terrain. And before I go into it any further, let me give you the rundown of how this worked. I incented people to bring in diverse lists by giving point bonuses, 10 points of victory points a pop for a variety of lists. And even before I go into that, let me just say that everything was built on victory points. There was no win or loss in this game. If you destroyed Nagash, if you destroyed the objectives, you gained victory points for that. And in doing so, you could actually get a good chunk of victory points with all the various objectives that were involved. But that in and of itself wouldn't give you victory in terms of ranking in the end game, which had prizes. And if you didn't kill Nagash, if he was victorious in the game and he crushed all before him, that's also wouldn't mean the game was a loss. The game was about achieving as many goals and destroying as many of the army of Nagash as possible, or even destroying some of your friends, because the players could fight each other. And in doing so, achieving all these goals, whatever they may be, however you find your victory points, that is how you can achieve your ranking at the end of the game. So I'm going to give you some examples of how this worked out. Then I'll go through the game itself, because I've got pictures of almost all of it. And I tried to be concise about it, because I can't take pictures of every little moment, but we'll get some highlights. So in trying to be diverse with everybody who brought units to bear on the table, and to encourage people to have an array of types of units, everybody got 10 victory points if they had any units that qualified as either a flyer, a monster, a cavalry unit, or a war machine, a hero, or infantry. If you lacked one of these, you didn't get the 10 victory points. So this is a way for you maybe to get a leg up if you represented one of each of these things. So, for instance, the ogres had no flyers. They didn't get those victory points. They didn't have any war machines. They didn't get those victory points. But they got for monsters, infantry, cavalry, and heroes. So, again, I want to encourage. I don't want to really penalize people and limit it in the what you can bring category, but I want to encourage people and give them benefits if they do bring some diversity in their army. And I think that's one of the things that, in terms of scenarios, in terms of events, that I like to promote, because I think if you hold a carrot as opposed to a stick, I think it's a more positive thing, and it benefits people who take advantage of it. But this wasn't a huge overriding point thing. It's a 10-point thing. There's a lot of things that give 10 points. The next thing was any victory points for any models you removed from play, you got the wound equivalent. So if there was a model that had 4 wounds, or even if there was a model as part of a unit, you didn't have to remove the entire unit. You just had to destroy that model. You got the wound count of the model. And that's really important, because you could really rack up some points just by wiping stuff out. And given that Nagash can summon, and a lot of the other, Death Wizards, a lot of the Necromancers and Archaon, for example, can summon lots of stuff. There are batteries. There's plenty of stuff that will be on the table, even if you wipe stuff out. So there's a good chance that even if that's your main goal, just sweeping across the board, that you could rack up tremendous amounts of points. And that's something that a number of people did. If there were certain accelerators, though, for example, if you killed Nagash himself if you shot him or used magic or whatever, used artillery and killed him, you got 3 times his wound count. So there's a really good thing there. He's got 16 wounds. That's a way to get up a bunch of wounds, but certainly not as much as wiping out maybe a unit of 100 skeletons or whatever, or zombies, which are easy to do. Even though they keep growing, you could kill those things pretty fairly easily. They're not that hard to take down, and there's lots of them. So it's really just a trade-off of what you want to do. But this was an achievement just for killing him, if somebody wanted to snipe him. However, the better way to do it was to kill him in hand-to-hand combat, in close combat, and that would be 10 times his wound value. That's the highest single act of victory points you can get in the game. Killing Nagash, that's 160 victory points. Just an outrageous amount, considering whatever, even if you killed a dragon, it would be 12 to 16 points, depending on what that is. So that was the goal. I wanted to make sure that it was harder to get to him and do that, and people even forewent doing that, maybe softened him up and got in there and did it in close combat. And there were some interesting and creative ways that a couple of the players tried to do that. And I'll go over that shortly. But this was the incentive here. And again, we would have rankings afterwards on highest wound count. And if I had a lot of people, not highest wound count, highest victory point count. And if we had a lot of people that would join the event, then there was other prizes, like the most heroes just killed, the most objectives destroyed, best painting. All these things would be in play, but we didn't have as many. I thought we were going to have 8 people. We had less. So Next thing was if you killed your opponent, your fellow players, you got their wound count. So you could totally need, if there were objectives and you were racing to get them and you wanted to fight your opponents or try to waylay them on the way, you totally could. And we had a method to go into play. And then there were treasures about the table. And I use these little treasure tokens, 6 of them, 2 on each of these tables. And if you gained them, if you acquired them, you had to hold on to them for the remainder of the battle. Somebody else could kill you, or Nagash's forces could kill you, and it would drop where it was, but you had to follow them along. So if that unit didn't survive, another unit could come along and snatch it. And if you, at the end of the game, had it in your possession of a unit, then you gain 10 victory points for the treasures. And these could be things like warp, tokens or gold or whatever you want to call it. And then there were these realm gates, and I will show the realm gates shortly and talk about them. But they really have a major impact on the game, as well as the ritual that Nagash is actually performing. So let me just go on to show some of the armies here, and then I'll go back to that. So this Ultra Forge model is the Zombie Dragon. Not ridden. I didn't have them ridden. I wanted them to be able to be summonable. And in the War Scrolls for the Vampire Count riding the Vampire Lord riding the Zombie Dragon, and the Ghoul King riding the Terrorgeist, they don't have a magical ability to summon a Terrorgeist or a Zombie Dragon, so it's not unlocked. And I subscribe fully. I'm not going to get into the debate that you need to have the War Scroll deployed in the game to actually unlock the summoning. I don't want to hear any nonsense about you could summon anything, anytime, anywhere. And if you want to play it that way, go ahead. No problem. Your fun is not wrong. But that's the way I interpret it, and that's just the way the mechanic of the game works. It's just the way it's built. So I wanted to deploy that. I didn't want to have a Vampire Lord on there because then it doesn't have on the War Scroll that you can summon. So here's a bunch of zombies, a couple units of dire wolves. There's some vampire bats there. They really come into play. These these bat swarms rather. These vampire bat swarms. There's 3 here and there's 3 on the other side of the table. They really work well in what, and I'll show you how in concert with the realm gates that I have. Their biggest thing is that within 12 inches, they incur a -1 penalty to shooting on your opponent. So with these zombies, and this mix of zombies is stuff that's been rebased and stuff that's been still a holdover with unit fillers and squares for the previous game. And I have about another, I don't know, about 90 or 95 rather that are in the box for summoning. So I have a lot more zombies than what you see here, but this represents probably about 80 or 90 zombies on the table. And then there's a corpse cart. You can see off to the left. There's some spirit hosts, and then there's Arkin the Black on his Abyssal Terror. I wanted to keep each of the board sections themed. So this is the themed of units that are have synergies as it regards to zombies and the corpse cart specifically. So the corpse cart actually enhances direwolves and enhances zombies, and mixed in there are two necromancers. There are 2 basic necromancers. Against this table, on this side of the table, there's a high elf dragon with I guess some kind of a character on top of that. This is actually just the starter box. This is a new player with Age of Sigmar. He's got the starter box for Skaven. So whatever, I think there's a claw catapult. There's the furnace, a bunch of plague monks. They're pretty brutal, actually. There's a nice starter box. To their left is the Stormcast, and there's a bunch of stuff that's in the Celestial Realm. So there's a Celestin Prime, there's a Dracoth, Lord Celestin on a Dracoth that are not on the table here. I think you might have one other thing that's there. But this is a nice array of Stormcast. I've actually fought against this particular player, Marvin, a few times in past battle reports. And hopefully he'll get a Star Drake and some Dracothian Guard to add to his troops. This is the Ogres. So you'll see there's a Beastclaw Avalanche at the cornerstone of this one, along with a unit of Bulls. Beastclaw Avalanche includes Thunder Tusk, a Stormhorn, 2 units of Mordfang. He's got 3 Giants, some Lead Belchers, a Standard Bearer. Let's see, there's a Butcher behind this Orc Hill over here. And there's the Stonehorn. I think the Butcher actually was the general. So yeah, there's a lot of meat on this table here on this side. And then we're going to see some of the Lizardmen. This is not even all the Lizardmen here. I'll have a better picture of it. But it just the way they lined up, it felt very Romanesque. It was really cool. But there's an engine of the gods. There's some Ripperdactyls, whole bunch of units of Saurus and Skinks, a massive unit of Saurus riding Cold Ones, and a Carnosaur and the Triceratops one. It escapes me again. I forget. Okay, I'm blanking out. We'll get to it. So on the other side of the table, this was mostly the ghouls, not all, but this was the ghoul theme section. So there's a whole bunch of ghouls there. There's about 40, roughly almost 40 ghouls there, with a Ghoul King that really enhances the Flesh Eater units, which is, I don't know if it's the Flesh Eater units, but even so, it's the Crypt Horrors and the ghouls. So it gives him, like everyone, it gives him an extra attack with his magical ability. So you'll see this is one unit here of 5 Crypt Horrors. I think there's 3 total units of Crypt Horrors on the table, and then I have a bunch that are in the box. The guys with the wings, the 3 on the right-hand side here, those are my converted Vargeist. The riders are not on them. Those are what I call my peg whites. The big one in the center there is, he's not the biggest one, but he's bigger than the Vargeist, is kind of a converted, twisted Bretonnian Griffin, but that's a Vargulf. And you see there's a Terrorgeist there. I do have some Crypt Horrors. You see them. Those are the werewolves. I do have a unit of Hex Wraiths, as well as a Cairn Wraith there, just to supplement this side. And I think there's 2 White Kings on this side as well. But mostly this was the ghoul section. And then starts the middle. This is the little extension of the ghoul section. You see there's also some vampire bat swarms there, which is, again, going to come into play in a second. There's the Terrorgeist there. There were 2 units of archers, which didn't even come into play in the game, but because I forgot about them. But there's 2 units of about maybe 15 or 20 skeleton archers on either side of the table, just next to the realm gates. There's a bunch of units of these Morghasts, which are the Archive version. I had those guys with the necrotic wings in the back are Fellbats. There's another unit on the other side of the table. The center had a mishmash of the skeletal units and the ethereal units. And of course, there's one of the 2, what are they called again? The Mortis engines. And the Mortis engines there were for pulsing to do damage to everybody, but also to heal, because they have a pulse heal as well. So that was nice. There was 2 of those. One of them that I just literally painted up this week. Not finished, but really got far in completing it, and you'll see it in a second. This is the center. So there's the Mortis engine that I actually completed this week. A lot of work with I didn't complete, excuse me, but I got it heavily done this week. Completed a lot of it with airbrushing, which I'm very happy about. There's Big Nagash himself, who's not yet been changed over to his circular base. He's got a massive circular base I'm working on. But here is in the center here, unpainted, but based and primed, not really finished, is the converted Bretonnian Grail Knights that are the Blood Knights. So I've got actually 2 units of 5, but I just kept them in one massive unit. They're next to the Spirit Hosts that are in the form of undead knights as well. Next to us, another unit of the Morghast Archive. So this is the skeleton section. You see that there's a vampire count on foot. The old Vlad model is sitting there. There's a standard bearer White King off to the left. And so this section where that Mortis engine is actually where the ritual is taking place. So the game is about Nagash entering into this realm and creating a kind of a center point of control called the Necropolis. And this is like this dread spire of undeath and bone and whatnot and ethereal energy that he is creating and is rising up from the ground. And of course, the armies are here to stop him, and they're various different ilks. But the main thing is they don't want the death to have a foothold into this particular realm. So this entire area you see here is considered cover because there's an activity, a ritual that's going on there, and that will come into play. And I think it might have been something that may have not have been fully translated over to the players, but it did come into play because there's nothing here yet. And just to give you the mechanic, every turn there's a chance, and it's a very good chance, but it does diminish if the players take certain actions, that a portion of the Witch Fate Tor Tower, there's 4 sections of it, will get placed right where that Mortis engine is. And if they can destroy it, they can attack it physically, they can shoot at it, they can spell it down. If they do, that section is removed. But every turn that starts at the second turn, every turn that it's successful, another section gets added onto it. And when the 4 sections are completed, which is the full Witch Fate Tor Tower, then what happens is Nagash can start completing his ritual. The game will end. If they kill Nagash No, Arkan can take over the ritual and complete it, and the game can continue. Of course, that's without Nagash, but not completely devoid of a powerful main character. But if they kill Nagash and they kill Arkan, the game ends because there's nobody to complete the ritual, and if the tower is not built, the game will end, and then we tally up points. And there's other things that come into play with this, but that's where it will occur. And there's the Blood Knights all the way at the bottom, and then here are the skeletons. I don't remember the count. There's got to be about 60 skeletons here. Again, I have another 40 or so in the box waiting to be brought in. And, of course, casualties. There's a Cairn Wraith there. There's another White King, one or two Necromancers to kind of help battery them back. There's another unit of the Fell Bats, the Fell Pegasi. And then there's Nagash himself. There's what you can see, and I'm not sure if we can see, there's a run to the Realm Gates. And yeah, you can see, oh God, more stuff. I forgot. So there's a Banshee, another unit of Spirit Host. You can see a little bit off to the left there. The unit of unpainted, just primed and colored bases is about half of the unit of Graveguard that I have. And these are, dismounted Bretonnian Knights that I've converted that took me forever to complete, along with those mounted ones. They're all going to be painted up with glowing eyes, and they have different sections of skeleton bone, and they'll be in the Mouseland colors, which is black and yellow. But they're over there. They all have regular hand, weapon, and shields. I have another 20 of them, I think, or 25 sitting in the case, mostly with great weapons that can be summoned. So there's a lot of stuff in the cases. There's about as much stuff in the cases waiting to be summoned than there is on the table. But everything that's in the cases is reflective of what's on the table, so that I'm adhering to the you've deployed this scroll and it's been opened up for everybody to use. And then there's another vantage point for some of the zombies and stuff that's on the other side of the table. So the Realm Gate that you see, there's two of them, one on each side. And what's happening is each one of them has this mass swirl of spirits that are surrounding it and are kind of just obscuring the skies. And this is the energy that Nagash is drawing in to use as kind of fuel to create this necropolis, this dread spire that he's creating. As such, within 24 inches of either of these realm gates, there is a -1 to shooting and a -1 to any enemy casting, unless they are death wizards. And I'll get back to death wizards in a second. I just want to finish this topic. If there's any overlap, it compounds. It's a -2 and a -2. This is huge. It really incentivizes people to try to go after and destroy these realm gates. They don't have any other powers like they do in the regular game. But if they destroy the realm gates, they remove that sphere of influence around the table. And it's not going to impact any war machines, any artillery on the other side of the board, any catapults, because those are usually well out of that range. But as you get closer and closer, shooting will be impacted, spellcasters will be impacted, so that really can add up. And compounding on my side is that I have these Mortis engines, which give you +1 to cast. I have the Corpse Cart, which gives you +1 to cast. So there's a lot of bonuses to casting. It's really hard to fail casting in a lot of ways. A lot of the castings are the double summon units. It's really almost, I think I failed 2 spells the entire game, one of which was Nagash actually rolling Snake Eyes to try and summon something, which was kind of hysterical. But in any case, this was everything was to the benefit of the undead, to the detriment of the players, to really incent the players to go out and destroy these things. The realm gates have 20 wounds apiece and a regular save of 4+, so it can be rended. So if they destroyed them, they got the 20 wounds and then they got a bonus 10 wounds on top of that. So you can get 30 wounds for destroying a realm gate. But that cleared that whole section of board, and the center part of the board is where you really had the overlap, the -2 casting, -2 shooting. And anything that did in that area that did not have a ballistic skill still failed on a 1, on a 6 roll of a 6. And if you're in the overlap of both of those realm gates, it was a 5 or 6. So really inhibit a lot of powers that could try to destroy Nagash or really lay waste to a lot of these units. Killing those realm gates should be one of the big priorities and one of the major objectives of the game. So in doing so, you gain a lot of victory points too. So next, the whole thing with Death Wizards. If a player brought, and there was supposed to be a player that was supposed to bring, I was really looking forward to this, an undead army. I don't know if it was Tomb Kings or Vampire Counts. Every turn there was a chance that the general would be turned by Nagash, in which case I wouldn't take over the player. The player would then be free to do whatever they wanted, but their goal was then to fight the other players, which would be great. And that would happen each turn. And if they didn't get turned, if they turned, the general had to turn. It was a roll that would increase each turn. If they turned, they would, they could break out of it. If Nagash was destroyed, they completely could break out of it and have free will. But the cool thing, I wanted to create a climate of competition between the players as well as cooperation, and so that they could clash if they wanted to. They could clash if they were compelled to. Certainly, if they were undead. But they didn't have to. They didn't really have to. There was a bonus to do that. They didn't have to. Of course, there were a couple people at the table that were like, nope, we're going to ally. We're going to stick together. And, I'm sure that in future games, as well as this one, their future games, I'm sure that's going to be something where there's going to be some player that's going to be like, yeah, we'll ally. But secretly, they're waiting for an opportunity to stab you in the back. All right, so moving on. Before I go into that any further, that was the last thing about the player-controlled army. So let's go right into, it's summoning. Yes, let me just, before I even go into turn one with summoning, any summoning, even undead summoning, just to put a little, a speed bump on it a little bit so it didn't get out of control, any summoning would be done at a -1 cumulative each turn per player. Not, if one player summoned, the other player would get a cumulative of that +1. It was just a matter, make it so that even with the undead, that we didn't go hog wild. Each time there was a summoning spell on my side, it was one harder to do. So just, we didn't want to overdo it. Yes, it's Nagash. Yes, it's Arkin. Yes, there's a bunch of other necromancers, but we don't, I'm not going to put my entire army on the table. Could I have done that? Sure. But the fun of it is to try to have some give and take and to make it interesting and to make people make choices. So we made it so that if every time a particular player casted a second summoning spell, it was at a ever greater and third and fourth ever greater subtraction to the casting roll, as well as to Nagash being the NPC player. Okay, for turn one, first, I'm not going to go into all the details here. I just want to go into highlights of really cool things that happened. The first turn went to the players, which they were thrilled about. There was like a small cheer. And the Stormcast player did something awesome. He didn't realize, of course, that this entire hill was a cover situation because there's a ritual going on here, and that this was where the necropolis was actually going to be to rise out of. So there's supposed to be a swirl of energy that's happening here, which as such the players could destroy the tower as it grew. But because it was a devoid space and he wanted to teleport something in, and he's not the only one that tried this, he could go ahead and bring something in, which he could do with these paladins. He had a special ability from another character to just kind of teleport these guys in within no closer than 3 inches from an enemy, which I thought was great. But I warned him. I said, hey, if they're there when the first tier of the tower comes in, they're gonna have a bad day, because just imagine a giant building get dropped on your guys. But we'll see how that plays out. But these paladins pop in, and they have a lot of attacks and mortal wounds that they can dish. So this is a risk in the first element of the first turn of the game, being able to start dishing out wounds to Nagash, who has just a couple of ways to get wounds back, but it's not guaranteed. So he went in there, and I thought that was a great move. Even if he lost all of these guys, it was a nice Hail Mary pass. This is a greater picture of the amount of lizardmen that were brought onto the table on this side of the table, and it looks like they had a lot more. I think there was about 180 wounds worth of lizardmen on the table at this time. I think the only thing it needs to be even scarier would be actually a Slan Mage Priest, but I don't think the player had it. Okay, moving on. You guys see a nice moving forward of all of the ogres. This just wall of death moving against the undead. Pretty scary. So not so strong on this side, but this player has some recycling with a couple phoenixes that will come in later in the game, and I think there might have been another dragon that popped in on that side as well. Here's my son Ethan, who is running his ogres. Who smartly took the center of the table. Nobody wanted the center of the table. Everybody could pick. I had to roll off for everybody to pick, and everybody, when they picked the side of the table. Nobody wanted to take the center of Nagash. Even that was like the first person to go, I will take the center. I was very impressed. And he's 9 years old. Everybody else is in their 20s and 30s, and the 9-year-old says, I'll go take center mass. Anyway, these paladins rush in and go after Nagash, and I thought, just a ballsy maneuver, something I didn't expect. Hey, look, you got to give people a chance with their initiative to run with it. But Nagash is in cover, so he's got I think he's got the equivalent of of a 2-up right now, 1-up if he gets a Mystic Shield, but he doesn't have that on. And those, then these guys move in, these Paladins pile in. The Vampire Blood Knights were able to actually get part of the combat. Only a couple of them, though, but still pretty precarious for Nagash right now. Nagash managed to kill 4 of them. And one of them was this like Hand of Dust ability. One, a couple other things that he did was, just ripped into these guys. And these guys had, +1 save and just doing some. I think they did like 6 wounds to Nagash. They may have done. I think they did 6 or 7 wounds in one turn. So yeah, pretty scary. I just wanted to dragon on dragon combat here. So this zombie dragon moves up and goes after the high elf dragon. Not a whole lot of movement here. I wanted to move a bunch of stuff up. I just started marching these guys forward. Just so that, let's get the combat going. Let's get everybody into range. I could take losses and bring stuff back. Let's give some of these guys an opportunity to go and get some victory points and just rip into units and see what happens. You can see, a lot of stuff on the table here. This is only about half the Morghast that were available, but I don't want them all on the table at once because that's just not fair. Those guys, by the way, add pluses to casting as well. So that's even scarier. So you can imagine there's pluses. It's like +4 for Nagash, and he doesn't need it. Plus, he already gets a +3. So yeah, there's a lot of pluses. There's a lot of options for people to go after stuff and take them out. All the ghoul units and crypt ghouls and Vargeists and Vargulfs and Terrorgeists, they all move up. And it didn't take long for these paladins to die. I mean, with a couple of Blood Knights to help, Nagash just swept them away, and that was the end of them. But they did do some damage. So here's the first level of the Necropolis, successful. What happened was it was on a 4+ that the Necropolis was succeeded in building one of its levels. Each of the towers, each of the realm gates that existed would add a +1 to that roll. So starting on turn 2, you would have it was a 2+. So he could fail on a 1, but that didn't happen. If they destroyed a realm gate, it was, that bonus was not there. So there's a chance that the tower would not succeed in increasing its tier, and they could destroy it. So they can get it, shoot it, magic it, close combat it. Everyone also had, each level had 20 wounds for armor save. So a lot of wounds, but can be done. If you can get in there and start swarming Nagash in this tower, you can ruin the ritual just as quickly as you could take out Nagash if it hasn't built up to full tiers. And every time somebody would take, do enough damage to kill a tier, I just remove one of the bases. It could regenerate back, but at the same time, they're right there probably and destroying it. So on turn 2, I think I got the first turn, so I moved a lot of these guys up. Moved them up on this, the ghoul squad, the ghoul themed squad. There's a couple of ethereal stuff on this side of the table too, to move up to take on the lizard men. And in the center, moved a whole bunch of stuff up to go after the ogres. There's a Vargulf there. There's a bunch of spirit hosts, a bunch of crypt horrors. Those are the werewolf ones that I converted. As well as now freed up, all those Blood Knights are able to move towards the center, and there's a vampire count there, vampire lord there that's kind of backing them up, and just a little speed bump there for the direwolves. Which, by the way, the direwolves, 2 wounds apiece, 2 attacks each, not bad. They're much better than they were in previous edition. They're pretty good, and they're great. They're also, they get a little boost if they're near a corpse card too. So I moved up a Banshee, which I rolled boxcars, 2 6s for a shot at this giant later on. I think it's actually this turn, and managed to take 6 wounds off of that thing. Usually that doesn't work, but it worked pretty well this time. Moved into shooting and charge range with this zombie dragon. Well, just dragon on dragon that's awesome stuff. So there's no riders on these cold ones, but there's supposed to be Sauruses on them. Some of them have them, but this guy's has a pretty big army, and he's painting him up. So please forgive the gray. And I think this is when we got to attack, and he wiped away a couple of these crypt horrors. I think I lost a few wounds here. I think we were trading attacks, but neither of these dragons killed each other. The Stonehorn obviously kills off one of the crypt horrors. That thing is obscene. The Stonehorn. Some trading with the Saurus and these Vargeists. This thing is this lizardman structure. I think this is, I don't know if it's the engine of the gods. I think it's the crystal that actually does a laser beam. That thing is great. You can't rend against it. It's got like a 2-up save or maybe a 3-up. Just so hard to hurt, man. So hard to hurt. But every army has them. Again, some attrition there. The giant just walks in and just wipes out one of these. I think he put him in his sack. He stuffed one of these direwolves into his pouch, which I love that mechanic. That's awesome. Lost a Vargeist here, I think. Put 1 wound on the Stonehorn. Wow, that's an achievement to do as well. Yeah, some more. I think the Mornfang managed to take off another direwolf. We saw really great use of this spell called the Maw by this butcher who kills literally 3 Blood Knights. Now these guys have 3 wounds each. That doesn't say, that's not a huge amount, but these are their mortal wounds. But the way it works, the Maw is that you roll it. If you succeed in the casting, it does die 3 mortal wounds. If you roll, that doesn't mean 3, it means die 3. If you roll it again, you roll a die 4 and you get a 4 or higher, it does it again. Another die 3 mortal wounds. If you roll it, you roll 4 up again. Same thing. You keep going. I think that Ethan rolled 4 or 5 times to get more, to have it keep going before this Maw was satiated. It could go indefinitely, but that's just the law of averages. Killed 3 Blood Knights in one go. That was amazing. So the Stormcast move up. I mean, some of these guys are a little slow, but they'll get into the action pretty quickly. Some of them can shoot, so he hasn't brought down his Celestin Prime yet. Skaven are moving up. That Claw Catapult's been doing damage to the zombies. And then this, I love this picture. This is just this surge of ogres into the action. He makes a bunch of charges, gets right up there. These lizardmen are just starting to swarm across this ice-themed board. And there's a lot of stuff on this side, but my God, plenty of lizardmen to meet them, and they just start surrounding the Cryptars and the Vargulfs. It was pretty scary at first, and it got even scarier. But then this lizardman player drops down these Ripperdactyls, and they have these outrageous, powerful ability where they can drop down, they can do tons of wounds. The guy got about 28 hits on Nagash, which literally, even though he has great armor, could theoretically, you fail enough armor saves and boom, he's going to take some damage. But he was able to get a Mystic Shield. He's considered in cover with this swirling area of ritual on this hill. So he had a base 3, 2 up with the cover, 1 up with Mystic Shield. You need a Ren to do that, unless you comp it and say all ones fail. But even so, it's 1-ups I don't think are a bad thing. But going into the negatives I think would be bad. But Rens are what you need to counter that. Well, this unit for all its attacks did not have any Rens. So I think when we first rolled it, before I realized what was going on, that he had no Ren. I thought he had a Ren 1. He would have done like another 6 wounds to Nagash, which would have really brought him down to I think 4 or 5 wounds. But then we realized, hey, it's a 1-up. These guys have no Rend, which is probably the only saving grace. So we reapplied those to the skeletons. We'll go to that, show that shortly. I think the way it worked was I think he killed like 20 skeletons or 18 skeletons, which is, each of them is a victory point. The Hex Wraiths move up towards the prosecutors. Stormcast starts moving stuff further into range, starts removing some of these Hex Wraiths. This Frost Breath on this Thunder Tusk, unwounded, is 6 straight up mortal wounds. And it's only in 18 inches, but he got close enough. And I thought he was looking to target Nagash, but I informed him, hey, that Realm Gate, has got 20 wounds, and you're not in range yet for Nagash. Do you want to target that? He goes, yes. And he starts unloading on the Realm Gate. This is Ethan. He drops this Realm Gate with his spear and chain thing, whatever. He has a couple of different shooting attacks, drops it from 20 down to 8 wounds immediately. And now he's also in charge range, because this is still the same phase. And the Beast Claw Avalanche gets 3d6 to charge. All right, so this Thunder Tusk is about to go after this Realm Gate, which is pretty smart. I don't know why this is taking so long to take out these Dire Wolves. I think it's just maybe it's earlier in the turn yet. So we have more Dragon on Dragon action here. I think I took a bunch of wounds now, still taking off the Zombie Dragon. This Plague Claw Catapult is still doing damage from range, but it's not yet in range for Nagash. I think he takes off a bunch of these zombies. More clashes again. Now the Stormcaster are fully up in with the ethereal host up here in the center, center right more. These lead belchers engaging this Cairn Wraith. This Plague Furnace finally gets in on these dire wolves, and I think it wipes them out pretty quickly. This was hysterical. This Carnosaur, man. The Carnosaurs are vicious too. Gets right up within 3 inches of my Terrorgeist, and then declares a charge. Rolls Snake Eyes. It happens, guys. It happens. I've had it happen to me at least twice. I see it happen to people very rarely. It's almost like a gimme. You get up within 3 inches, you're almost sure. You're like almost guaranteed to almost. The key word is almost. You're within 3 inches. You roll 2 dice. You roll Snake Eyes. You fail your save. You fail your charge. And this is the most inopportune time to do it because it's like the big monster against big monster. It's like the end of the last Jurassic Park movie. You want to see the big T-Rexes fight each other, you know? So he throws in the Saurus, which make it in also easily. Nagash, I think, goes after these Ripperdactyls, rips one of them. Yeah, easy charge made by this Thunder Tusk into the portal. Drops it down initially down to 5 wounds now. I think both of these dragons are just on their last leg. They're ripping chunks out of each other, you know, down to like 5 or 6 wounds each. Plague Furnace kills off a few of the dire wolves. This is where we redirected the Ripperdactyls into the skeletons because we realized the mistake earlier. Ripperdactyls took these down. I think they dropped like 20 of them, which was, yeah, here we go. This is like 20 skeletons that got removed as a result. Took a few wounds off the Terrorgeist. He dished some back to the Saurus. And then this is a great combat here. We've got Blood Knights against a fairly large, this is a sizable unit of Mournfang. Mournfang, I think, have 6 or 8 wounds a pop, and the Blood Knights have 3 wounds a pop. So this is a fairly even fight. The only thing that would have been worse is if the Mournfang had actually charged the Blood Knights. That would have been even scarier. But good fight here. You'll see how it turns out. Blood Knights get to remove one of these guys, do a bunch of wounds onto the rest of them. I think the Stonehorn slaps down all. Slaps down all the Cryptars. 1 round. This is after they've already been engaged. The Cryptar has already lost one from a previous turn. No more wounds on the Stonehorn. Stonehorn finishes off 3 of the Cryptars, just swipes them off the battlefield. It was awesome. Again, these dragons cannot finish each other. They're down to like 5 or 6 wounds each. It's just so funny. Okay, 7 wounds on the zombie dragon, 5 wounds left on the high elf dragon. The Ripperdactyls, again, dive into these skeletons. You can see they've been thinned out pretty good, but the Ripperdactyls die, and they've taken them probably down to about half. I think here was a Vargulf. There's no more. Let's see. These direwolves charge in on the high elf. Again, you know, just this high elf high elf dragon is not going anywhere. Finally, this unit of direwolves dies. The Graveguard fold in on the Thunder Tusk and dish out a bunch of wounds. I think they dropped it. I don't know if they dropped it down to 4 wounds or applied 4 wounds. I think they applied 4 wounds onto it. It only has 12, but it's not as beefy and hard to hurt and kill as the Stonehorn. I think the Terrorgeist had regenerated 1 or 2 wounds that had been done to it previously. So now it only has 2 wounds on it, even though it had taken some wounds previous to this. Some good combat here between these prosecutors and the Hex Wraiths. A couple wounds dished onto this Cairn Wraith, but they dished a couple back onto the Lead Belchers. We go to turn 3. And on turn 3, successfully, another tier of the Dread Spire, the Necropolis, is being built. Successfully. It only could fail on a 1 because both of the realm gates are up still. The Butcher goes in and uses Maw again, but of course it had eaten 3 Blood Knights the previous turn, so it got satiated after killing just 1 more. The Dracoth on a what's it called again? Dracoth, the Lord Celestin on a Dracoth showed up this turn. Still, the Celestin Prime is hanging out in the Celestial Realm. I don't know why he's still hanging up there. I know why. The more he hangs up there, the more powerful he is when he shows up. And I think that the player was looking to just drop him down and kill Nagash in 1 turn, which is a great idea. It's just in a big battle like this after 7 hours, you know, the clock starts ticking for, hey, how long are we until the dinner bell rings? This was unfortunately this is a newer player. He doesn't have everything built, but he dropped a couple Phoenixes on the table. They don't come into play. They didn't get in. They don't get to the end game in time. I think the Butcher moves up. We have these Mournfang that are looking to go after Nagash this turn, and I cannot stress this enough. The Beast Claw Avalanche special ability. You need 2 units of Mournfang. They only have to be 2 guys each, but there's 8 Mournfang here. 1 Stonehorn, 1 Thunder Tusk. They can charge 3 die 6 inches, which means they can charge from 18 inches away. I think you need a 15 to get this charge. And this unit has a banner that allows you to reroll failed charges once. So yeah, this happens. He moves in to a position where you can see Nagash's base just at the bottom, and there's a White King with a Infernal Banner sitting in the middle there. So if he rolls high enough, he can go after Nagash, or maybe even the Necropolis itself. So yeah, this Furnace is killing off the Direwolves. He moves up his giants around the Lead Belchers and is looking to do all whatever charges he can with those giants. But there's a couple of giants and a unit of Mournfang. Nagash is well in range for these guys if he can make some rolls. Still a lot of damage and carnage being done with the Stormcast and these Ethereals in the center. Let's see. A lot of thinning out here. I think all the Vargeists and that Vargulf is not long for this world on this side. So the Lizardmen have been racking up lots of points. Let's see. I believe this the Stegodon. That's it. I couldn't remember what the name was. The Stegodon and the Carnosaur are looking to get in on the a lot of these other units battle around it, but they're looking to charge up on the Terrorgeist. This Vargulf is now down to 4 wounds. I think follow-up attacks, this particular Realm Gate is down to 4 wounds itself. Yes, there's more damage being done here. But oh yeah, wait, let me go back. I missed this. So only there's 4 wounds left after all the damage being done by the Thunder Tusk. He's got 4 wounds left, and he can pop 30 points into his victory point category, and he wasn't able to do it with the Thunder Tusk. But he had dropped 16 wounds off this thing in 1 turn between shooting and its charge, and it took the Lead Belchers to shoot at it to finish it off. But the Lead Belchers had not moved; they were already in combat, so they got die 6 shots apiece. They blew it to hell. There goes the right-hand side Realm Gate, which cleared up that side of the board with a lot of its area effects abilities, and will make it harder for the Spire to get bigger and easier for anybody who wants to cast spells or to shoot. So again, this is not a pillow fight, guys. They're just doing little increments of damage, these dragons, against each other. But just picture right here, these 2 massive, these behemoths just whirling around and ripping at each other and blowing, doing their breath weapons after each other. It was an epic battle, but it just went on. And then you could see also he has one of these treasure tokens as well. So if that dragon dies, that'll drop where it is. The zombie dragon's just holding off for its dear life here with 3 wounds. I finally just said, just kill it so I can resummon it. Just kill it, because I'm going to summon when I have models. There's no shoe boxes or cans of soda that's going to represent anything. I don't play like that. But I want to at least have a model representation for it. But I was like, I want to summon another one, and yeah, there's other things going on other sides of the table. I kind of need the help. So yeah. This is the Hail Mary charge. He makes it. The ogres get only 3 of their Mournfang in. No room for the giants, who I think failed and redirected. Well, they're not redirected. They went after targets that they were within the range of the rule. But you don't have to declare what you're going to charge. You just declare you're charging whatever you can make, as long as you have the distance traveled around around enemy models, unless you can fly, that you could get to. So he got these guys in there, which they also get impact hits. So on a 4-up, they do 1 mortal wound each against a foe. I think he may have done that. He may have done 2, and I passed the mortal wound saving throw. There's a specific mortal wound saving throw, a 4-up that Nagash has, which is his last-ditch effort if mortal wounds are dished against him. Almost gone with the Hex Wraiths against the Lord Celestin on the Great Draco Lich comes in and lends a hand here. Lost a few of these Direwolves to the Plague Monks. And finally, that dragon goes down. The High Elf Dragon goes down, and that treasure drops where it is. This White King takes a chunk of 2 wounds out of this giant that charged it. These I forget which kind. I think these are character models. I think there's a Griff Hound or something here. There's a bunch of these Stormcast try to kill off these bat swarms. The thing about bat swarms is if they can dish out a wound, any wounds that have been done to it are healed, but not if you remove that particular model or base. So if it has 5 wounds and you do 4 to it, but it does a wound back, right at the end of that turn, it recovers the 4 wounds it lost. But if you do 5 wounds, you remove that base. So we was able to actually kill off one of these, which is big because these incur an additional -1 shooting penalty. So the center of the board was not good for shooting. Okay, so we have the Plague Furnace finished off the rest of the Direwolves over there, but between the Monks and the Plague Furnace, they finally killed the Zombie Dragon. So, lost of the High Elf Dragon, but also loss of the Zombie Dragon on this side. Now we have the Grave Guard going up against this Thunder Tusk and these Bulls. And the Grave Guard, actually, a large unit you need a lot more, but a large unit of skeletons is actually more effective than Grave Guard. For smaller games, Grave Guard are better, but the Grave Guard can dish, man. They're not really as effective as they were in 8th edition. They're a little bit weaker, but they have other things that make up for it. Let me tell you, they did some good damage against not only the Bulls, but also against this Thunder Tusk. I think this is where the Thunder Tusk was finally knocked down to 4 wounds, where before we were just indicating what wounds was applied to it. The Vargulf finally goes down on this side. The end of the Hex Wraiths against the Stormcast. The Blood Knights drop all but one of the Mournfang, and this is where we stop the game. I just want to illustrate here. We spent 7 hours playing, and I started getting messages from my wife saying, we're supposed to do dinner tonight. So we had to stop. I will be doing this mission again. We'll be doing it with all, however many people want to come and play, and we'll adjust the armies down to make it a little bit more reasonable to get it done in a single session, and then we'll make dinner plans that night. Let me tell you how I think this would have turned out. There was 2 giants and the remnants, I think 3 of the 4 Mournfang that charged in, sitting on top of Nagash, as well as other units that were starting to close in on either side. Now, I don't think there was going to be a lot of risk on the left-hand side from this perspective of this picture. The Stormcast were coming in, but they were getting bottlenecked by a bunch of things. And I think the Ogres would have checked those Grave Guard. The zombies didn't even come into play, so the Phoenixes may have gotten bogged down with those guys for at least another turn. And there's no more dragon over there, although I don't know if we were going to recycle that. Ultimately, down the center, I think, is where the real risk was. There was enough stuff that could have been summoned. We didn't even go into the turn where Nagash could start summoning again. And I had so many models from the stuff I had stashed in the cases left, and as well as casualties that have been taken, that there would have been a unit of Blood Knights, a unit of Hex Wraiths, several Vargulfs, between not just his summoning, but everybody else's. A lot of stuff would have been brought out onto the table with all likelihood. And Ark of the Black never even got into the fight. He just did some buffing, because he wasn't close enough. And I wanted to keep him in reserve because I figured Nagash was going to be the big target. And if Nagash went down, which I'm sure he would have gone down in turn 3, absolutely. He was down to 8 or 9 wounds. And there was guys right up on his grill. So between shooting and magic as well, because there was going to be the Maw that I'm sure that was within range for that. And then on the right-hand side, the Lizardmen were right up on the edge of that board, so they were going to probably either start taking down that portal, or they probably could have started shooting with all the skinks at Nagash. They probably would have pushed through on that cloud right there. They would have been within range of some of their shooting, and clearly would have swept through there. And here's something that a lot of people don't realize: as much as I have all this summoning that I just mentioned, I probably wouldn't be able to get half of it off. Maybe not even that much, because so much of the board was covered by enemy models and even my own models. Now, everybody who talks about this invincibility of Nagash and the overpowered breakage of summoning, realize this. In this game, we have 3 tables, and there would have not have been probably any real estate really out there to put models down, especially large clusters or big models. And here's why. You cannot be within an X amount of inches from an enemy model when you summon. So when you summon, you only have 18 inches. It's not like what it was in End Times, where it was like 36 inches, so you could put something on the other side of the table even. You have to do it within local region. Nagash doesn't have extra range. So he could throw out 40 zombies. Or he could throw out 2 monsters even. You can, if he rolls high enough. He could do double. So if he throws out a Terrorgeist, he gets 2, right? Where do I put him? There's no room. Within 18 inches, there was no room. There maybe I could have summoned 1 or 2 things. But after that, the summoning was done. It was gone. I couldn't summon anymore, because what you could see at the end of the game, you could see that there was just a mass of enemy troops everywhere. There's no place to place those guys. So when you think about summoning, and I'm not going to go on this whole tirade, but let me just say, think about this. There are things in place to limit summoning if you have cluster units, if you could do area denial, if you can, just consider that, because that was something I had considered as the game was getting to this next turn and I had to resupply my units. I was like, they're all up on me, which they should be. So ultimately how this game turned out, Nagash was about to die. He would probably not have made it to turn 3. I was shocked he even made it to turn 3. And there was a good chance that he would not have, because the two of the players had really good strategies. And there's no more cannons. There was only one artillery piece from long range, the plate claw catapult. And there was plenty of magic, but not overwhelming. I had a lot more magic on my side of the table. But this game wasn't about just wiping out the undead, who's more powerful or whatnot. This game was about who could rack up victory points, achieve objectives, and at the end of the game, we'll tally them up. So we went and we completed this turn, and I didn't get my top of 3 just because of time constraints and because of wife aggro. But this was a real close tie between the ogres and the lizardmen, and I think the ogres edged it out a little bit because of the realm gate being destroyed. If not for that realm gate being destroyed, I think the lizardmen would have topped out maybe by about 20 victory points. Closely followed by the Skaven player, and then last by the Stormcast, who would have done so much better if that Lord Celestin had come down earlier. I know it's a real temptation to keep that thing up in the Celestial Realm, but with a game like this where time is not a factor as well, that's a real big deal. I think if that guy popped down in the middle of the battlefield on turn 2, he may not have been as powerful as he would have been on turn 5, but so what? He would have probably had some impact and probably could have if not dropped Nagash, maybe really put a hurt on him in conjunction with that sneak attack with the Paladins and the Ripperdactyls earlier. In any case, there's the fight. There's going to be more of these iterations coming. There's one big one that's being planned, which is going to have Nagash on one side and Archaon on the other. So it's going to be more of like a civil war. Maybe not a civil war, but with the whole thing with civil war, why not use it? Just with those armies opposing, and the way it's going to work is the way I've envisioned it. It's going to probably be somewhat similar to this, but with just some modifications. But it's going to be pick your side. Okay, you need to pick a side, and we're not going to do where it's predisposed. You could have order guys hanging out with Archaon. It's just going to be, here are the 2 behemoths on the table, and you pick which side you want to join, and we're going to alternate. So it's going to be even. So basically, we're going to roll off and then make sure that not everybody picks one or the other, and then we'll see what happens. That's going to be a future iteration, and then I'm going to be doing this one again with just a couple of tweaks to accommodate the 8 players, which is what initially was envisioned. And I might need actually an assistant to help me, because that'll help further the game along with all the massive status effects and spells and stuff like that on the undead player side. So there'll be some adjustments, but this was a game. Everybody had fun. The prize is really great. They were from starter sets down to painting sets, so that was really good. But the Bearded Dragon did a really good job of taking advantage also of GW's prize support, which is a thing now. Has been for a couple months. Definitely take advantage of that. Check out your local stores and tell them, hey, GW's offering free prize support to the stores to give out for events. It doesn't cost them anything to do it, and maybe you'll be the person that hosts it, or that runs it, and promotes it. So if you're interested in Age of Sigmar games, that's a great way to do it. This is what I've been doing. I've been going around to all the regional stores with the Gamer Grunts and without the Gamer Grunts. The Gamer Grunts is a group that I'm with. This wasn't a Gamer Grunts game, but we will be doing stuff, in a circuit with games around the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and then other people we're talking about that might be doing it in other regions, as well as some other announcements I can't really go into now. But as far as my own thing, I'm going to be going and doing it to different stores in the area on my own, doing stuff like this. And if you have any thoughts or comments, please feel free to leave it, because I'm always happy to get some feedback. Try to keep them positive. I mean, if you have criticisms, fine, but let's not get any anti-AOS haters in here ripping into this stuff. Look, Nagash, he was ready to go down. He was going to go down. If we continued to play this, he was dropping. I expected him to die earlier. He didn't, but even so, everybody had a good time, got some cool prize support, and dished out some major carnage against the armies of the undead. I think in the end, if we went and pulled this all the way to the turn 6, I think the alliance of these 4 armies, it would have been close, but I think they would have crushed and crumbled the undead eventually into if they didn't wipe them out, it would have been a small mass that were left. Even so, who cares? It was about points achievement and just, playing with toy models and having fun. Hope you enjoyed, everybody, and have a great day.